ladies and gents. Up next in this event, we have talked about marketing, we have talked about AI, we have talked about operations. Our next speaker is here to show us that they all three belong in the same conversation. Ryan Gross is the founder and CEO of Grapevine, a CMO share company. He brings more than 20 years of marketing, brand management, communications, and sales experience. He is someone I have had the honor of working with for many years. He has worked with us in all of our dental success organizations. Many of our dental practices also use the CMO share companies as well. And he is one of the few people who can hold these marketing strategy and operational execution conversations. But before I bring Ryan out, I want to introduce you to someone else, and that is Dana.
Why am I not getting more new patients?
How is my marketing performing?
How is my practice doing this week?
I'm doing everything they said. I created a story, built a new, beautiful website, but yet my practice isn't growing.
Is my front office answering the phones? I have no idea.
What can we improve from today's operations?
Did we follow up with all pending treatment plans?
What do these numbers even mean?
Hi Dana, this is Dr. Addison Colleen. How is my marketing actually performing?
Your marketing is generating strong volume, 402 new patients and $1.1 million in production in April. But you're leaving money on the table through a Google Ads budget spike that tanked ROI and a phone answer rate drop that likely cost you 30 to 60 patients last month.
How is our practice performing this year versus last?
Your practice is having a standout year. Collections are up 37.7% over 2025 through Q1. Production crossed $1.1 million per month, and you're generating significantly more revenue per patient despite only modest new patient growth. The one thing to watch, hygiene production is declining as a percentage of total, which is an early warning sign for patient retention that's worth addressing now before it becomes a bigger problem.
It's time to change the way you think about marketing your dental practice.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the stage, Ryan Gross.
Thank you, Ashley. Everything just changed. There's a tool out there that a few years ago that no one could imagine existed. It can read your numbers, tell you what you're doing wrong, tell you you're doing what you're right. But more importantly, it's going to fix everything. It's going to make your life easy, solve all of your problems. But it's not. It's going to be an aid to help you become more effective and more efficient in what you do. But more importantly, how can you help build relationships? How can you build your team up? Because it all starts with people. If you don't have the right people and you don't have the right relationships, everything that AI does will just make it worse. If you suck at having a culture with your team and you use AI, it's going to get worse, trust me. And if you are bad at patient engagement, AI is not going to fix that. It's going to make it worse. AI is a tool to be more efficient and more effective. Before I got into dentistry, I worked for the Walt Disney Company, a company that thrives off of technology, thrives off of innovation, but it starts with people. When I worked there, I had the opportunity to meet people who worked with Walt himself. One day I was at an event where I met Bob Gurr. Bob Gurr was an Imagineer for Disney, hired by Walt himself. And he built many of the rides and a lot of the attractions that you probably have ridden on at any Disney park in the world. I asked Bob, I said, Bob, what was it like working for Walt? And Bob said, Walt, definition of who he was curiosity. He was curious, he always asked questions, he always wanted to do better and learn more. You'd present an idea to Walt, and Walt's eyebrow would go up, and he would say, he would get excited, he'd like, that'll do, that's good. But then he would say, what if? Two words that really defined Disney and Walt Disney. What if? Walt was always asking, how can you do something different? He was asking for data, asking for information on what if we did this? What if we plussed this? And that continued through the company today to help build their innovation. It reminds me of some of the best practices that we work with today. They're curious. They ask questions. When I go to Addison or Bill Keith, who will be up next, Ben Kakis, Jason Tenuri, Colin Myrick, any of these guys, and we start talking, their response is, okay, I know that, but now what if? What if we do this? What if we make this change? That is something that's special. And that's something that if you have that, you can utilize AI at a different level to actually make your business and your life better. So let's get into the next part of how AI can really optimize this 5 minutes. So it only takes 5 minutes for a patient to choose a dental office. 5 minutes from the time that they search online until the time they attempt to call you or schedule online. It's 5 minutes. So you need to make sure that you are showing up in front of the right patient, that when they go to your website, that your site is efficient and effective to get them to try to schedule very quickly. And then most importantly, you need to answer the phone, and then you need to convert that. So 5 minutes. This is where AI can help you, because AI can make sure you're getting in front of the right patient, a patient that's going to convert, that's going to produce a lot of production for you, and is a good overall patient. AI can help your team answer phones. It can help train your team on how to answer phones. It's a great way for a tool to get these 5 minutes to be as efficient as possible. So some stats here. 90% of patients search for a dentist online before they choose that dentist. And this includes new patients that are referrals as well. So if you have a patient that gets referred by another patient, they're still trying to go to your website to find out information about you. So your website better convert. It better be able to easily have a schedule online or call now. It better give them the information they're looking for. 60% of those people go to a mobile device to find a dentist. So make sure your phone or mobile version of your website and ads are optimized, again, to quickly give them the information that they need. Now, here's the stat. This is the most important stat. 38% of inbound calls go unanswered. We have a very strong partnership with Mango Voice. We analyzed over 9 million phone calls. 9 million. 38% of those went unanswered. Do the math there. That means 4 out of 10 people are calling an office, not getting a human, and they're going on to the next office. They don't wait. They don't get put into a CRM and like, oh, I'll just wait for 3 days for the office to send me a text or an email to schedule my hygiene appointment or my emergency. No, they go to the next office. These are data points here that, again, AI can assist you in optimizing. It can get you shown in the right patients when they go online. It can make sure your phone or your mobile's optimized. It can make sure you're better at answering your calls. So this is something that I've always believed, and it's a DNA from the start of when I started this company in 2019. My first client was Addison Clean. Addison introduced me to Mark. I worked with Mark on his practices when he owned them. My entire existence in dental is based upon these guys here, these black belt coaches, Mark's philosophy, everybody in this room who is somebody important to this company I learned from. Because I had no clue about dental before I got into this. I was always in the attractions industry, working for zoos, working for Disney, things like that. But I knew in those industries that it was important to look at your operations and to feed your marketing, and vice versa, your marketing to feed your operations. And this is how that works, and some examples for that. So if your operations tells you, hey, we don't have enough hygiene openings for new patients, which is going around everywhere. A lot of people have that problem. Well, then that can trigger your marketing to switch to limited exams and emergencies. You can get more new patients that way. Simple, very easy connection. Your marketing can tell you, which is happening right now, that people are trying to figure out how to pay for the dentist. So when they get to your office, if you present them with financing options, savings plans, ways to actually pay for treatment, you will then have a better opportunity of closing that case. This is a loop that goes over and over. It's infinite amount of options of these two feeding each other. So you need to be able to look at both of these to have effective marketing, effective operations. It is a critical component. If you put these in silos, you will fail. When I was at Disney, There was no way that the marketing division of Disney, working with an ad agency, wasn't looking at the results, getting feedback. My last role with Disney was Disney Vacation Club, the timeshare arm of the company. There was no way that the millions of dollars they were spending on marketing wasn't getting feedback from what we were telling them was happening with our guests. So make sure you feed each other from marketing to operations and operations to marketing. So let's go through 3 questions that are critical. What was your phone answer rate last month? I can barely see anybody out there, but raise your hand if you know your phone answer rate. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, maybe 8 people in here. This is a really big deal, you guys. If you don't know your phone answer rate, you have no idea if you're even answering calls to be able to schedule patients. Majority of patients still want to call a dental office. This is a fact based upon data. You'll have people who will go look at a schedule online appointment, see what's available. We can see this through the tracking that we do, and then still call the office to schedule the appointment. So if you don't know your phone answer rate, you do not know a critical point in the first interaction with them trying to schedule with you. Number 2, what was your cost per new patient? And this can be, configured in a million different ways. This is what we do. We keep it simple. That's why I say, if everything you do, just try to keep it simple. So what's your cost per new patient? This is pretty easy. Here's how we look at it. You take your total marketing cost, say it's $5,000. You take the total number of new patients you had, say it's whatever amount, and then say they produced $40,000 in that first month. So you have $5,000, $40,000, there it is. You spent $5,000, you got $40,000. It's a ratio. If you made $50,000, then it's for every $1 you spent, you got $10 back. It's pretty straightforward, pretty simple. And so yes, I know that there are patients in there that come through the new patient that are referrals, but that's still a form of marketing. They still go to your website, they still call. So it's an easy, simple way to look at your cost per new patient. And that gives you a baseline that you can track month to month. As long as you're consistent with how you track it, that's all that really matters. Next thing, what does your hygiene production compare to other practices your size? This is a difficult question. But why this one's on here is because hygiene is a funnel into your practice to make more money. It's very important. And right now, the demand for hygiene is very high. So we did a study back from the 2008-2009 recession, a very large study of 7,000 practices. During that time, what happened was hygiene visits increased during a recession. Total appointments at dental practices went down. That tells you that during economic times that are difficult, people still will go get their teeth cleaned because it's usually covered by insurance or it's preventative care. So if you don't know how you're doing, and right now, yes, I don't know, I'm not an economist where we're at, but we do know that when gas prices went up, we could see some changes in the behavioral, how patients were behaving. So make sure you know this number and try to find out how it compares, because this is something that if you are way low on hygiene production, you could be missing out. So what is AI then? AI is pattern recognition at scale. So it's pretty simple. What it is you take a bunch of numbers, millions and millions of data points, and you start to look at those and analyze those to come up and say, okay, how am I doing with production per new patient compared to other practices? How does the market look? How the practices in Dallas look compared to me? Things like that. So if you get enough data point, you can start to understand how you compare to other people, but then you can also utilize that information to give you answers that you may be very complex. So back, 3 or 4 years ago, we had spreadsheet after spreadsheet that would do these calculations for the practices we work with that would tell us, okay, are they seeing as many patients as they should be? We know based upon the number of phone calls they have, the number of Google conversions they have, that they should be seeing X amount of new patients. Now it just does it by itself. It just knows, because then it pulls in other data points that we didn't even know existed to predict how you should be doing and tell you where you are at. So it's just pattern recognition at scale. So what it doesn't replace your clinical judgment. It can help your clinical judgment. It can help aid in being a better doctor, but it's not going to replace that. And the 2 most important pieces, it doesn't replace your team or your patient relationships. That's critical. If you think that it's going to come in and, answer a phone, and I guarantee you this, I will go to battle with anyone who argues with me on this. If you think that an AI bot is going to do better than a human to answer the phone, you're wrong. It doesn't. The data shows it. Again, we had 9 million phone calls with Mango, and those phone calls funnel into a ton of different companies' AI agents. We know what the conversion rate is. So it can act as an aid, and I believe in these AI phone agents. I think they're a great opportunity to help with overflow calls. But it starts with your team and your patient relationships. It's not going to replace that. So you need to work on those components. Again, if you can get smarter with the data that you're analyzing and smarter on how you're making decisions, you're going to be able to focus up more time on your team and on your patients and those relationships. It goes back to that. It doesn't replace the culture you built in your practice as well. That's a very important piece as well. It can help maybe create training tools for your team, but it's not going to create a way to make them like working there whatsoever. So if you look at some of the best practices, and I'll call out 2 of them. Jason Tenuri, he's not here today, Finger Lakes. Amazing man, amazing person. Why he's amazing is because I had a call with him last week, and we were chatting, and everything he does is for his team. He believes in investing in his people and in giving them the tools they need to be successful. Because he knows if his team believes in what they're doing and they're equipped to do what they need to do, then guess what? They're going to take care of the patients. And when you take care of the patients, they're going to trust you. And they're going to trust when you tell them they need something, they need a treatment. That is a very, very important point. If you can put those resources into your people, they'll put into the patients, and you will have a return off of that. So I'd really stress, focus on your people and how you can use these tools to then give them more opportunity to be better in relationships with it. That's all Disney. When I worked for Disney, the first thing is Disney gets over 1 million different feedback points a year, from letters to reviews to surveys, over multiple millions. 80% of those feedback points are about people. They're either mad or they're happy with a person. They're not upset typically about a ride. They're upset about how the person who helped them get on the ride treated them, or they're happy because they had a child who had needs, who wasn't able to get on the ride very well, and then they were scared, and that cast member overcame that, and it made their day. It's about the people, remember that. So, but what AI does is it replaces the guesswork. And this is something I hear all the time. When people say, well, I feel like our calls are down. Or I say, hey, how's your answer rate? If they don't work, if we don't know their answer rate, I'll ask them, how's their answer rate? Well, I can hear the team. They answer every call. They're telling me they're answering them. Those are guesses. If you have the data and you're using AI, it's going to tell you exactly what those real numbers are. So here's how you gain this data. Your phone system knows how many calls you missed and when. There's a whole bunch of information right there. It knows that typically we see, again, off of Mango data, that about 96% of calls are during open hours. So we hear this a lot. Well, most of my calls that I'm missing are after hours. Well, if you're missing 20% of your calls and 4% of your calls are after hours, that numbers don't add up. So it knows a lot about what's happening. It knows when those calls are coming in. For example, if you look at the calls and say, oh, we get a lot of calls Monday morning right off the bat. Well, then you can use this information to staff better on Monday mornings, or not have a meeting on Monday, whatever it is. So your phone knows this information about you. This is one data point. Your scheduling software knows, and your PMS knows, what holes you have in your schedule. It knows where you have open blocks. It knows, hey, we need more doctor time, or we don't have enough hygiene time, things like that. So again, it knows that information about you. And then your production reports tell you a lot about the treatment plan you're doing. It tells you about your production per patient, things like that. These 3 things together are magic. If you tie all 3 of these together, you're going to have some information that will change the way you operate your practice, because they feed into each other. They correlate each other. They get validated by each other. One thing that we do is we look at 3 different data points. Your marketing, your basically Google, your phone data, and your operational data. We know based upon your Google data what we believe the number of new patients you should have based upon those conversions and that data. Mango, or phone data in this case, will tell you another number. And then your operations is your real number, what it tells you. So if these two over here, one saying 45 new patients, one saying 55, and you're at 50, well, Grace, guess what? That's great. But if these don't add up, there's something wrong there. And you can take and start to look into that. And this is, again, where AI can assist you very quickly to be able to do that. Like in the video, it's very quick. And one thing that I look at is we get asked a lot, like, what is Dana? What can it do? And I say it does everything. That's a really bad answer, really bad, because it's too broad and too big. But what it does is it gives you KPIs to start with to really get an idea of where to go with. And then you can use AI, or you can ask questions, and you can unpeel the onion, which is a term that Disney uses all the time, where they see something that doesn't match up. So if Google tells you should have 50 new patients, your phone data says 55 and you had 30, well, then you unpeel the onion. Why were you at 30? Maybe it's because you didn't have enough availability. You were out a week on vacation, whatever it is. So the data is there, it connects it reads it, and tells you what it means very, very quickly in a way where we used to have to throw all this stuff into spreadsheets. So now I'll give you 3 points of data that we found through our AI tool in the last couple of weeks. The average practice loses out on $18,000 a month in missed calls. $18,000. That is a lot of money just for not answering the call. So if you can use this information to answer more phone calls with your people and then supplement it with some AI agents, imagine you cut that down to, this is a what if. What if I cut that down to 9,000? That's a big number that can change what you do in your practice. This is another thing. And Bill Key's coming up next. I credit him with this one. Him and I debated back and forth on this, and we came up with this, and now AI has confirmed it. You need 20 to 40% more new patient blocks than your new patient goal. So if you want 100 new patients, you better have 120 to 140 new blocks, because there's cancellations in there, there's scheduling availability. This is a key. If you want 100 new patients and you have 100 new patient blocks, you're not going to get 100. It's almost impossible. So put this in as a benchmark to always have more new patients. The more availability you have, the more new patients you will get. It's always going to happen. Then here's another one, the new patient production the first month. $900 is where we see is a good production. And this has gone up in the recent months due to the ability of AI in marketing to get in front of patients that are most likely to convert and are able to pay for services within the practices we work with. And so if you have a practice getting $400 of production in the first month, and why I do this in the first month is because on their first visit, they might come in for a cleaning or whatever, but they come back a week later, 2 weeks later to actually have the treatment done. But if you have a practice that's getting $400, we have a practice where we're getting $400, we're going to question why. We're going to say, are they bad at treatment planning? Is the patients coming in really poor insurance patients? Whatever it is the marketing bad? You got to ask all those questions. So this is a benchmark that I would look at. So if you take those 3 things there, again, AI can assist you in analyzing those together and give you an answer. All right. So the old model of marketing was this. You run ads, count calls, and hope that people schedule. Pretty simple. And this stuff still works, just to be honest. Just AI makes it easier and better. It also then, you rely on last month. It's reactive. You're looking at always past data. You are running marketing operations in silos. They're really not talking a lot to each other. And then it's a lot of gut feeling decisions. When you have data, you shouldn't make gut feeling decisions ever. So that's the old model. Again, this can work if you put time and effort into it. You can still get a lot of information out of this. But this is what it looks like now with AI-driven models. You're going to make targeted campaigns to get in front of the right people based on their behaviors. AI is going to connect a user who's searching on an AI platform or Google to someone or business who's most likely they want to buy from. So it takes away you having to search a million times or go to the different websites to find what you want. For example, I like to golf. So I was looking at Sunday Red. It's a golf brand. Well, now Google thinks that I'm bougie in golf because Sunday Red's kind of bougie. And so now it thinks that I like really fancy golf stuff. So now I'm getting ads for $5,000 golf club sets, which I'm not going to buy. But that's an example. Well, I shouldn't say I'm not going to buy it because AI probably knows I am going to buy it at some point in time. So that's an example of how this works. Is if you are targeting correctly with your marketing, you're going to get in front of somebody who's like the person you want. It simplifies the process. It makes it easier to convert and to sell a product. It's going to give you real-time signals that surface while the problems can still be fixed. So again, if you're looking at your schedule and for whatever reason a hygienist is on vacation and you have less, there's so many variables here, but something's wrong with the schedule and you need to switch gears to say limited exams or your doctor's schedule fell apart. This used to take days or weeks to do. Now it can do it in real time, essentially flipping that switch on the ads to something else. And this can run in the background to give you that opportunity to, in real time, change the way you're marketing and your operations. It might come back and tell you, hey, a lot of the people coming to the site right now and converting, they are looking for X, Y, or Z. So prep the team to look for that, or that patient's going to come in, prep them to be able to try to convert that patient. It's a unified system that informs each other continuously. So when we started building this, it was built basically for us to optimize marketing, for us to be able to optimize our websites and ads. But what it morphed into was this feed that can tell you a lot about your operations and vice versa. So it's this continuous loop over and over again. Website data, phone data, operational data, just in this synergy circle over and over and over again, that should be able to speed up and optimize and make it more efficient and effective for you to run your practice and make decisions. And that's pattern recognition across hundreds of practices applied to yours. This is a critical point. So there's a lot of people out there, I guarantee right now, are using like Claude or ChatGPT or built their own agent for their practice. And those can be very, very smart for your practice, but it's really just looking at the data of your practice. So here's an example. This is your data. It's a snapshot of what's happening. There's some good information in there, especially if you train it properly. But now take the collective intelligence of, again, 9 million phone calls, hundreds or thousands of their practices, and millions of data points. And now what you can just say is, how is my practicing performing against other practices in my area across the country? That's a big, big deal right there, because it's going to tell you where you stand. And it's going to give you tips on how to be better or to how to achieve if you're below the averages. It's going to pull that information together and explain to you, okay, hey, yeah, you're not producing as much per patient, but this is why, and this is why they are. And so that collective intelligence is a map to where you can go with your practice, and it can predict of how things are going to happen. So it can predict based upon everyone else's, once you get these data points, it again happens all the time now. The predictive shopping model is massive. So there's companies out there, Amazon's doing this, but where they can predict what you're going to buy before you know it. Well, AI can help do this in the dentistry field, know when patients are going to need X, Y, and Z, and it's that collective intelligence. It's not siloed of just your data, it's thousands of practices data across the country. So here's 3 patterns that Dana recognized over the last couple of weeks. The missed call problem, like we talked about it. If you answer under 70% of your calls, you're going to have 23% lower new patient conversions than the average practice. I cannot stress how important it is to answer your calls. And again, people want to talk to a human typically. There are AI agents that will convert. And again, they're a good aid to assist you when you can't answer the phone with the person. But still, the number one conversion point for all new patients is the phone. It's not online scheduling. I believe there's going to be a transition with that where you have AI agents on websites that will be able to assist with scheduling right then, there, and very quickly. But still, it's still a person that you need to talk to. And because AI can be very frustrating at times, so people are still very important. The second pattern is the hygiene capacity leak. This is a big one. So we know that because of the shortage of hygienists and because of the demand of hygiene increasing, that the average practice is missing out on $60,000 to $120,000 in revenue at this point. This is a big, big deal because hygiene feeds all of this production of these other of your doctor's schedule and other treatments that you have. So I'm really this is easy for me to say, go out and find a hygienist. I know it's the easiest thing to say, but figure out how you can optimize this to get more hygiene new patients in, because that's going to be the lifeblood of your practice moving forward. We know that from our prediction that hygiene is not going anywhere. It's going to be a stable and consistent new patient flow. The case acceptance gap, and this is something that probably everyone in this room also gets, is people not accepting treatment, not accepting, they're like, oh, I can't afford that. So with this, there's some fixes here that, again, with or with AI, you can figure out how to manage here. Because if the marketing is telling you, hey, people are really sensitive about cost right now, well, then offer them savings plans, membership plans, financing, charity, things like that. But if you do this well, and if you see Ben Kakis around, that guy is brilliant at converting treatment when someone walks through the door. I wish I could pull him up on stage. I think he's backstage right now. I wish I could pull him up to give his spiel on how well he does this. But he knows this is an issue out there, so he's equipped his team to do it, to overcome the objections that come with this case acceptance issue. So let's talk about the questions that you need to answer again. What is your phone answer rate? Shoot for an 85% answer rate. That is a solid number. Again, the average is like 68%, so that's a solid number there. If you can get 85%, shoot for that number. That's what we tell all the practices we work with. Then, what percent of production is hygiene? This is 30%. I know there's a lot of variables here and why. Like if Addison's practice and Bill's did a lot of implants, it's going to change. I get that, but have at least some type of a percent of production and measure against that. And then know what your case acceptance rate is. Know what those numbers actually are. A lot of practices don't even know, or they don't track it, or they don't know why it is what it is. So I'm going to go ahead and just backtrack just a little bit of how we got to this point for our company and what we believe AI and how AI is going to transform the dental industry. So we started back in 2018. I started working with Addison just, again, solo, of helping him when he was transitioning out from a seven practice group to himself. And so started just advising him on some marketing. Then in 2019, I went out on my own, became a fractional marketing. Told you worked with a bunch of practices here. And then over that time, we realized, I realized at the time that there's a lot of data out there and there's a lot of disconnect between marketing and operations. And this is a major issue. So at that time we did, all it was like offering advice. We did some design work and offered advice on websites. But at that time, we did the largest study of dental website visits that had been done that we know of. We analyzed over 150,000 website visits to see how patients behave. And we did, what if? I told Addison, what if we just build a website? We never built a website. I brought on Mary, who's an owner with me in the company. She was an expert in this. I said, Mary, can you build a dental website? And she was like, yeah, let's do it. So we did a what if there, built a website and realized it was pretty good. Now, it was pretty good because we had someone like Addison helping feed us on, here's what we should do next. Let's ask this question. Let's look at this number when the patient comes in. So that was the first 1 through 3 years. Then we started to connect all that data because we started at that point collecting website data, getting early into phone information, but we started getting reports through Open Dental a lot. Started looking at divergent reports, things like that. And we started putting these into spreadsheets, this aggregate data of spreadsheets. And we knew off these certain triggers, like I literally, and I can still do in my head now, I know exactly, how many new patients you should get off a number of phone calls to, within a few percent. But we started looking at that and saying, okay, this is a great spreadsheet here that gives us information. Our team can use it and we can start putting formulas and putting practice data into it. And then when ChatGPT came out, I'm like a nerd for this stuff. I get a login very early on and I'm like, this is crazy. I spent the first week just doing stupid things like having it make new episodes of Seinfeld and Friends and another ending to Back to the Future, things like that. But then I'm like, hey, there's some more to this. So then I started using it to plug in information. And I created a GPT called Ryan's Brain, which was just a joke at the time. So that the team, our employees, could then go back and reference things that I looked at every day. And so I went to Mary and said, Mary, what if we turn this Ryan's Brain to something more that can be powerful to actually change our marketing in real time and give us an advantage? So then we started to build our own walled model of AI to just essentially feed our marketing. And when we figured out, hey, we got a lot of information here that can actually impact the operations and the marketing of the practice at a higher level, is when we started to get into building Dana, which is completely And for me, it was completely built to just make practices' life easier, give them education, and again, free up time to connect with their staff and their patients was a big deal for me. And so we started asking over the last 7 years, what if? And we knew the answer was, we realized the answer was there by these what ifs, that we did a lot of what ifs. So I want to go back real quick to Disney. Disney, when Walt started thinking about Disneyland, it wasn't about, hey, how can I make more money? How can I do X, Y, and Z? He wanted, because he would take his daughters to these fairs on the weekends, these carnival type things. They were dirty, they were not clean, they weren't very exciting. And he said, what if we built something that was everything that families wanted to go do on the weekend? And he already had this great intellectual property with Mickey Mouse and all these movies. So his what if was, what if we could take, just for a day, and we take a family and they can go somewhere where the magic is real. And they can feel what they've always wanted to feel when it came to watching their movies. Then, at that point, he said, okay, let's invest in technology and innovation. And for him, it was this operational obsession. Walt was crazy about operations. But it started with, how can I do something that's good for people? And he was a kid at heart and he wanted to do it. It started with that what if, and then it brought in technology. If he would have started with the technology, it would never have worked. He started with something that was close to his heart. So, as you leave today, I want you to ask 3 questions. What is your phone answer rate? What percentage is your production of hygiene? What is your case acceptance rate? Keep asking what if. These are simple things. Keeping curious, asking what if, using AI as a tool to give you the opportunity to be better at what you do. And just those 2 words, stick a sticky note up in your office, on your car. What if? Thank you.